Give me liberty and give me Annette.
Welcome to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness, a podcast where we talk about the Constitution, politics, history, and pretty much anything else I want to talk about. My podcast can be found on AnnetteTalks.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, YouTube.com/Annette Talks, and probably a few more places that I can't remember right now. I think I'm really big in India. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about something that touches on the Constitution a little bit because we're talking about trying to regain our rights and battle against some of these unconstitutional mandates that are in place. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about how one wonderful mother was able to unmask her 7th grade daughter in school. So today I am joined by Lauren Shane. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me.
I hope I'm not freezing too much.
And just so the audience knows, we're in this Zoom call right now, and it's kind of glitchy. So if we talk over each other a little bit, it's because we don't know that the other person is still talking. So hopefully it'll get better as we go. So Lauren, you are in Utah, right?
Yes, I'm in Utah County, specifically in Utah.
Okay. It seems like there's a lot of battle going on. I did an episode last week with a friend of mine, Alina Erickson, and she's on the front lines with trying to get masks out of the schools. And so it really looks to me like you Utah parents are really going to bat for your kids, which is awesome. I do not see the same thing here, unfortunately. And so I've been kind of limited in what I can do. But I was really inspired by your story when you shared with me on Facebook, and so I wanted to share it with our listeners. And you and I know each other because you and my sister were good buddies back when we lived in California, and I was in law school, and I think you guys were in the same singles group together or something.
Yeah, it was super fun. That was like one of my best times of my life.
It was. I really enjoyed it too. I have very fond memories of that time period. So anyway, so tell me what's going on. You have a 7th grade daughter. Her name's Bradley, right? And yeah. So who first decided that you didn't want her, that she shouldn't wear a mask? Was that your idea or her idea? How did that come about?
Oh, so that was incredibly a lot of back and forth because, as you know, it was just a lot of unanswered questions and wondering what was going on and how our school is going to open up. And so, like in August, I think every parent was in turmoil trying to decide what's best for their child and trying to figure out, how the schools were going to treat our children, and if we were going to do that. In my neighborhood, I think a lot of the parents already just decided they were just going to keep their kids home because the unknown was just like a little too much. So they decided to homeschool like right away. And my daughter, knowing, her weaknesses and strengths, she craves social interaction. She's, a people person just like I am. And so in her mind, like going back to school was not a question. She wanted to go back to school. So respecting that, initially, I told her, okay, so this is your decision. You decide what you want to do. And I think when we first started having this conversation, there was no mandatory mask thing going on. And I wasn't fearful over COVID-19. I just, wasn't sure what was going to happen. And so anyway, she wanted to go back to school, so we had planned on that. And then the governor came out and said masks were mandatory in the school setting, and that was a blow to the majority of the parents here because in June our school district in our county put out a survey, and they were wondering how we as parents felt about the whole COVID-19 situation and also, regarding masks. And they also sent out the questionnaire to the staff members as well. And so we got the results back before the actual mandate was in effect, and they said that only 10% of parents wanted their children masks going back to school. But weirdly enough, it really corresponded with the staff response. Only 11% of staff actually wanted the children masked.
I have to say that's
So it was pretty
surprising.
much
Sorry, I don't think that's the same here. I think that is one of the big differences between Utah and many other states. And it seems to me it kind of usually falls along party lines, that if you tend to lean more right, you tend to be against wearing masks and not afraid of COVID. And if you tend to lean left, you tend to be more in favor of wearing masks and more afraid of COVID. And if you're my listener and you disagree with that, let me know. But that's what I've seen so far. And I have to tell you, in some of the things I've watched here, I go on and I watch the governor's press conferences online, and the comments, some of the comments from people that are left-leaning are like, oh, thank you so much for the mask mandate. Thank you for keeping us safe, like that. And I know a lot of teachers are in favor of the masks as well. And so I think that's really interesting that only 10 or 11%, 10% of parents and 11% of staff there want the masks. And so that speaks a lot to, I think, the political makeup of Utah, but it also explains why there's so much pushback, because you guys don't want it and you're forced into it anyway. Sorry for jumping in. Go ahead and finish your story.
Yeah, no, interject. So like it was interesting because we thought after that survey, because our school district covers like 100 schools. So we thought, okay, so even though it's 10 and 11%, the majority don't want it. So I thought the school district would, or at least the governor or somebody would be like, okay, we're not going to appeal to the small amount. We're going to be safe, but we're not going to mask our children. But that wasn't the case. So anyways, my daughter was very disheartened, that the mask mandate was, put upon them. But at the same time, she really wanted to go to school because, again, she was social. So she wanted to see her friends more than anyone. And this was her first year of junior high. So it's a big deal, like you care about what you look a little bit more, you care about fitting in. And so I asked her, I was like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I'll wear a mask because I want to fit in. I don't want to be, I don't want to be singled out. I want to fit in. I want to be like my friends. I want to do this. And so as her mom, I was like, okay, fine. Even though I know she has, her asthma issues and she has food allergy issues, and sometimes they're confused for one another. I figured she would be smart enough because she's taken care of her body her whole life in regards to keeping it alive. Because I've had to EpiPen her 7 times in her lifetime due to her food allergies. So like she knows how important it is to take care of her body so we can function properly. So I trusted her that she would remove it when she would need to or whatever. I don't know. I was just going, okay, this is what you want to do. And I don't want to be the mean mom, But days prior to the start of school, I want to say like it was a week or so prior, I was already like gathering, trying to gather info. So she's had an allergist her whole life. And I petitioned him to get an exemption from him, even though if she wanted to wear a mask, then she could, but she had an exemption, to clear her if she didn't, just as a backup. And he absolutely refused. And I was shocked because this is the person that treats her for her food allergies and her asthma. And he told me there's not one reason that he can think of that would qualify anyone to be exempt from a mask. And it blew me away as a mother because he's given so many protocols and so many medications to keep her body healthy and safe. And to have him say that was just like it completely felt political. Like it felt like there has to be, like my daughter doesn't even have severe asthma, but there has to be somebody who has trouble enough breathing to where they are exempt from, a mask. So anyways, sorry, I'm getting off track.
Well, you know what? Let me interject something really quick, because of course there are reasons to not wear it. I mean, I have a friend who, she was at the doctor's office for, this is an older lady, she's about my mom's age, and I think she's there for a heart condition. I can't remember what it was now, but she was wearing a mask like you have to at the doctor's office, and they were testing her oxygen level with the mask on. And they were like, oh, we need to put you on oxygen. Your oxygen is too low. And she's like, what? And so they took the mask off and tested her again, and it was fine. So that tells you that you don't get enough oxygen. And so there's got to be several, issues, medical issues that would be badly affected by not getting enough oxygen. And asthma seems to be a pretty obvious one to me. So I'm very surprised. That does sound political to me, because why else would he not want to be there for his patient and make sure she's getting enough oxygen when she's asthmatic? That's crazy.
Well, at the same time, it could be, political, but he also may have been in fear of getting his practice taken away from him.
Yes.
Because there seems to have been a lot of bullying among the medical professions, that they're just scared of the repercussions that are coming from, whoever, tattling on them that they're giving, medical exemptions. And so,
you know what? I don't know if it was you or someone else, but someone told me that they asked their physician's assistant to write them an exemption, and she said she was threatened with being fired if she wrote exemptions. So I know there's pressure on the medical community, which is political as well, because obviously they don't, there's a bias in favor of masks, and whether people honestly believe that they work or whether it's political, they're not gonna do anything to mess with their livelihood, which I don't blame them for. Oh, I know it was, I know of a lady that sells breathable masks, and I'm not gonna say whether my kids are wearing them or not, but they are mesh, and so they look like regular cloth masks, but they're breathable. And so that was given to me as an option if I wasn't going to be able to exempt my kids, because at least that way I know that they can breathe. So I'm not saying they're wearing them. I'm not saying they're wearing them.
I would have gone that route as well, because I was extremely uncomfortable with the thought of my daughter wearing a mask, because we haven't worn one this entire epidemic, because my two boys are on the autism spectrum, and it's already hard enough to communicate back and forth with them, and for them to understand or them to listen properly, and for us to see their mouths as well, it's essential. So as a family, we already don't wear them, but my daughter was especially concerned with going to school. So anyways, days prior to the start of school, we received an email from her aerobics teacher saying that they were required to wear masks for aerobics, which blew my mind completely. I just couldn't believe that, even though the governor said there's exceptions for PE and for recess. I couldn't believe that she would say it's a requirement to wear it for aerobics. I was just like, that's when the mama bear switch went off in me. I was like, absolutely no. Okay, we're solving this now. And so anyways, after being rejected by her allergist, I then I was kind of just grasping at straws, but I made an appointment to see a doctor I've never seen in person before. So I had a telehealth online appointment with him regarding my boys months and months back, like at the start of the COVID. And I really liked him. I really thought he listened to me. I really thought he understood me and didn't just brush me off thinking this mom doesn't know what she's talking about, anything like that. I really felt like he was just a very good doctor that truly was trying to understand, like his patient and his, the parents, because obviously my boys don't communicate that well due to their autism. So I made an appointment with him. I took all 3 of my children. And so I had 3 separate appointments. So I had a great deal of time with this doctor. And I sat there and I laid out all of the reasons why I didn't want my children wearing masks. And anyways, he completely agreed with me. I took my forms that I got from my school, the mask exemption forms, I brought them and I gave them to him, and he wrote it out nice and clear, expressing all of my concerns the way, I wanted him, not the way I wanted him, but how I conveyed all my concerns. He wrote it down appropriately, professionally, to where the school would understand, where I'm coming from. So it was really nice because I don't think he was presented with any mask exemption forms from a parent before. So he was kind of like, he was kind of wondering why I was so impressed he was going to sign these forms. I was like, you're really willing to do this? Because I knew my daughter's allergist wasn't willing to do this. So I was just kind of...
The school has mask exemption forms that you could fill out and take to them? Okay. That's interesting because I don't think that I'll have to look at my school's website, but I've never seen anything like that here. My guess is it must be a school district thing. And because our, here in Colorado, the executive order has some exemptions listed. And for instance, like you mentioned, being able to read lips. And so there's an exemption for people who are hearing impaired, but only, because I read it further, I thought it was just being hearing impaired, but only if you're like in the process of communicating. So like I'm hearing impaired. And so it's very frustrating for me trying to talk to people with masks because you don't realize how much you rely on reading lips until you can't.
Yeah.
And so in my situation, technically, if I'm someplace, I can say, take off your mask, and I'm taking off my mask so we can communicate. But that doesn't mean that I can just not wear one all the time. Although if people that know me know that I've now decided I'm not wearing one unless I'm absolutely forced to. So whenever I go someplace, I don't put one on until someone makes me. But even then, so the other question I had for you was, what are your reasons then for not wanting the masks, other than like your daughter not being able to breathe well enough and the reading of lips? Are there other reasons that you have for not wanting your kids to wear masks, or for you as an adult not to wear one?
So in a school setting, the entire learning environment relies on communication, right? So like, that's why I just absolutely didn't want them to wear it at all during school. Like we're avid hand washers. We've always had to do that, especially with my daughter's food allergy. So like, we know the importance of washing your hands, especially when you come in from a public place. Like, wash your hands before you touch anything in the household. Like, so I just never agreed with masks at all, because my boys would completely fidget and stuff like that. And I just felt it was just completely unnecessary. I just never wanted to do it whatsoever. Yeah. So, my daughter, like, I think they, in our community, we had multiple gatherings for church and stuff like that. She's in a young men's program, in our church. And, like initially they would be like, hey, you need to bring your mask. Hey, you need to bring your mask. She didn't want to be left out. She'd bring it. But in the end, like, these kids, they are not just seeing each other in school. They're seeing each other after school. They're carpooling together. They're doing late nights together. I mean, it's just like, we treat each other like family. So it's really, to me, it was just...
Sorry, I was going to say, it's funny because the health board here actually made the same comment about, because, a lot of, this is the problem. We have a lot of scared parents, which is ridiculous. But we have these scared parents that didn't want to send their kids back to school at all. And one of the comments, one of the doctors, I think it was a doctor from the health board here said, they've been hanging out together for the last 4 months, not socially distant and not wearing masks. So actually going to school will be a more controlled environment than they've already been in. And that's the thing that's so silly about this whole thing is that, okay, so when we go to church was another story altogether, or school or stores or whatever, and everyone's all, ooh, social distance, put masks on, whatever. When we're not doing those things, we're all hanging out together. None of us are socially distancing. We're hugging, we're talking. I have parties at my house regularly. I had 25 people show up for my birthday. No one's masked up. No one got sick. No one ever has gotten sick from any of the parties I've ever had, from months on end now. And yet we're supposed to act different in a school setting or in a church setting or in a shopping setting, like it's official, it's just ridiculous. Sorry, anyway.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
Did your daughter then decide that she didn't want to wear masks and she was exempt, or like what changed her mind from wanting to fit in to going along with you and not wearing a mask?
Okay, so I'm gonna get to this is the climax of the story now. So
yes, I've been looking forward to this.
Yes. So the first day of school came and my daughter was so excited because she wanted to see her friends. First day of junior high, this is important. Kids she's never interacted with before, old friends she hasn't seen, for a couple months. And so she was super excited, left every single mask she owns at home because I'm like, hey, you have a mask exemption. You have a mask exemption. I emailed it to not only the principal, but I emailed it to the nurse, and I emailed it to every single one of her 8 different teachers that she has at the school. And so I let them know from the get-go, my daughter has a mask exemption. It's due to her asthma, which also can be confused with her food allergies because sometimes her food allergies discolor her face, which is another reason why I expressed to the doctor I didn't want her face covered. And I was like, and it comes out of nowhere. So her asthma is different in part of it's not caused by exercise. So her asthma is caused by her immune system being down. So if she gets a simple sore throat or simple sniffles, you give it like 2 or 3 days and all of a sudden she can't breathe. So we have, she has a daily inhaler that she takes as a preventative. She has a rescue inhaler and she has a nebulizer at home. And so it's not all the time, but when her immune system goes down, that's the first thing that it attacks is her lungs. And so anyways, I emailed all the teachers and I told them specifically, my daughter has a mask exemption. If if you have a problem with it, please communicate it with me or the principal as soon as possible. We can change her out of your classroom, because I'm not gonna subject my daughter to being with a teacher and having them have to teach her, when they have different feelings than that. I want a teacher that is comfortable. So I offered that. And then I also expressed that she will not be bullied, harassed, bribed to wear a mask. She won't be ostracized or segregated, nothing. She, needs to be treated like everybody else. And I said it firmly, but nicely.
I love
because that's what it is.
You know what? I love the mama bear attitude and that you would think of all those things ahead of time. I'm thinking right now that one of the reasons that you're able to do this is because you're in that Utah 11%. And so maybe some of these teachers are part of that 11% that don't want kids in masks. And I think you're lucky that way. But I think it's awesome that you thought ahead on all the different things that could happen. She won't be bribed, she won't be bullied, she won't be harassed, she won't be segregated, because I'm sure those things probably would happen. At least one of them would happen to her. And so it's awesome that you saw that ahead of time and headed off at the pass. I think that's great.
Yeah. because I knew it was going to be an issue, because everything that I've tried to do for my children, fighting, advocating for them, it is always met with pushback, always. And so since this is, it is a big deal right now, I automatically foresaw it coming, and I was like, hey, like, I have to nip this at the pass. Like, I need to like be completely transparent and tell them exactly my expectations, and exactly, like, I needed to establish that communication from the get-go. So so the first day of school came, and I was nervous from the already, because my boys were actually sick. They got a cold. And I didn't even go to their first day of school. So
You know what?
Here I am dropping
Lauren?
my daughter off in her school parking lot. Yeah.
All right, Lauren, it cut up a little bit there, like a bad phone call.
Okay.
So, but you know what? And also, I wanted to stop you real quick. It's people that are not watching this don't realize it's hard for us, because our faces keep freezing up, and so we can't see when the other person's trying to talk. And so we're like handicapped a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like being on the phone, where you can just you're waiting. But before you start the first day again, did you get any response from any of those teachers, from those emails that you sent out?
Yes. So a couple teachers opted not to reply to me at all. I don't know why. But a couple of them just gave me just short answers, like, thanks for the heads up, like, and one teacher communicated to me that I want other people around my daughter since she wasn't wearing a mask. And so I thought it was sweet that she was considering the health of my daughter. But like, if, as a mom, I've already weighed that decision. Like, to me, it's more important for her to get oxygen than to wear a mask that's not going to prevent a virus anyway. Mm-hmm. So, I already weighed that decision. I wouldn't have been sending her to school if I was fearful of her health. And so, anyways, so yeah, I had a couple responses, but it was all positive, the responses I did get. And so there was a concern initially. Later on, she had a pregnant teacher. So the pregnant teacher kind of sat her towards the back of the classroom, but she still wasn't segregated from her, her classmates. But she was pregnant at the very end stages of her third trimester. So she tried to keep, distance from my daughter, but my daughter never reported any, negativity coming from that teacher, which my daughter communicates everything from.
Where does she get that from?
She's like I am.
Right.
But
so the first day of school.
You know what? I think it's okay. So first day of school. So I dropped her off. She walked in, and knowing that I've been in this, circumstance before with fighting with the school, I parked in the parking lot. So I sat there with my two boys who were home, sick with, their colds, and we sat in the parking lot for about 10 minutes. And just like clockwork, I got a phone call. And on the other line, it was the principal. And he was, like, is this, Mrs. Shane? And I was like, yes. And he's like, so I'm looking at your mask exemption for your daughter. And he started asking me a couple questions about it, which I don't know if he legally should or not. But he was, asking me, like, well, why did the doctor write this? Well, why did he check this box? Because he also checked no face shields. And he was asking me questions, and I was like, well, that's, the doctor wrote it just like that. And he's like, well, I can't call and talk to your doctor because you didn't give me permission to speak with him. And I was like, yeah, no, you don't have to speak with him. You don't need any of her medical files, because that was another section of the form of releasing her medical information to the district. And they don't legally have to have it. And I don't legally want them to know her entire history of, everything. And so I we had a little bit of small talk, but then he came down to the point of, well, your daughter isn't wearing anything over her face, and I cannot allow her to wear nothing over her face. And I was like, well, she either has a medical exemption or she doesn't. Either she has a qualifying condition or she doesn't. So, you tell me. And so he insisted that she needs to wear at least a face shield in order to go to school. And, at this point, like, my heart's racing and I'm starting to shake because I know this is a battle that I'm not going to put down. And I know it's on my side. Like, I know it. And so anyways, he's like, so, like, she needs to wear a face shield or I need to send her home right now. And so I told him, I was like, hey, like, I need to speak with her, but I can't come into the school because I won't wear a mask and I have my 6 children, which I don't want to bring into the school either because that's not right. And so he's like, okay, I'll send her outside. So she comes outside. She's towing in her hand the face shield that he gave her. And you can tell she's extremely upset. So she gets into the car and then she automatically starts to cry. So she held it together and then she automatically started to cry. Now, this is different because my daughter has always been, like I said, an open book. She's always been a rule follower. She's never been able to lie to me, like, ever. She's always confessed. Like, she's like the super guilty sinner, of our family. Like, she can't not tell the truth. And so she's just starting to cry because she feels humiliated that she was pulled out of her classroom within the first 10-15 minutes. And she just wants to in school so bad. So, like, I told her, the principal's options. I was like, hey, look, he says you can stay at school if you wear a face shield. He's like, or, like, he's sending you home and you can't, participate in school. And she's like, but I have a medical exemption. And I'm like, I know. Like, I sent it to him last week and I got no response until today, like 10 minutes after I dropped you off. So she's, upset. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, I'll do whatever you want to do. I was like, but just so you know, like, if we go home, I was like, this isn't the end of the story. I will still fight for you to go to school. I was like, don't worry about it. Like, and so she's like, I'm not going to wear this stupid face shield. She's like, it's hideous. It's embarrassing. It's necessary. She's like, just take me home. And so anyways, like, that was like the most brave moment my daughter's ever had. And I think it's just, like, finally she realizes she needs to stand up for herself. And so I brought her home and I started immediately making phone calls and trying to call her doctor to get a bigger explanation of, the mask exemption, or I was trying to think of to call my advocate, to call, a lawyer. I wanted to fight this because I followed the district's rules. Like, I got their form they provided to me. I had it filled out by a qualified doctor. She has a qualifying medical exemption, like medical reason, and the doctor agreed with me. And anyways, so we did it all by the book. And so I started making the phone calls. Can you see me okay, Annette? Because you're a little bit blurry.
I can see you and I can see me, but the video, I don't know why it's so wonky. So who were you calling? Who'd you call? Or, no, first of all, I have to say, what an idiot that principal is to not address this before the first day. Why would you, if you've got a mask exemption sitting on your desk for a week, why are you waiting until the day of, like, he thinks you're going to back down? You're not, you've emailed all the teachers. They had to have had a discussion. Why did they not have a discussion ahead of time about how are we going to handle this? Just ridiculous.
The principal said initially he was talking to, like, his upper people, his supervisors, before, addressing me. And so that's what he came at me with. But then luckily we only lasted like 10-15 minutes at home as well, until I got the follow-up phone call from the principal telling me I can bring my daughter back to school. So I don't know who he talked to, but I think he knew. I jumped through the hoops that they provided, and I did it to the T. And so, even on the form, it says this has to be turned in before the first day of school. And I turned it in, like I forget if it was Thursday or Friday before the first day of school. And the first day of school was on like Tuesday. I don't remember. Anyways, but he's like, I just talked to such and such, and we're going to allow Bradley to come back to school without wearing anything on her face. So I think he knew legally he was going to be in trouble if he would have, held to it, because yeah. So anyways, yeah, so I told my daughter and she perked up, and I drove her back to school and dropped her off. And luckily, it's honestly been smooth sailing since.
So why was Bradley why did she decide to not wear the mask after all? Because first she said she was going to wear one to fit in, which my girls have all opted for as well. I told them at the get-go, I hate the idea of them wearing a mask, and it's only 2 days a week right now, but it's going to switch over to 5 days a week within the next 2 weeks, and they're going to be wearing them 5 days a week. And I told them, if you want me to go to bat for you to get those masks off, I will. But they all just want to fit in. And so I'm curious why she decided that.
So initially, I was like, fine, whatever. And, she wanted to wear it initially because she wanted to fit in. Because honestly, for the majority of the week, the month, year, she doesn't have a problem with her asthma. She doesn't have a problem when she's healthy. And so she takes lots of supplements and medication to ensure that her body is functioning properly. But it's those instances where I'm just like, you cannot, she stays home. It's not even like you can't wear a mask to school. It's you have to stay home because you have to be on your medication every 2 hours, on those bad days. But I think the switch occurred when she got the mask exemption. Honestly, she had another doctor believing in her that she had a right to not wear one. So it wasn't just her mom telling her, you don't need to wear one, because I told her, that leading up to the first day of school. But her doctor told her, yeah, face shields are necessary. Yeah, I agree with you that you shouldn't be wearing a mask so that you can get the oxygen so that your lungs can function properly, and you don't induce your own asthma wearing this stupid mask. So I think it was that confidence that she got the week prior to the school, is that my mom believes in me, I don't need to do this. My new doctor who I just met believes in me, I don't need to do this. And so she got the courage to go to school and, to be around everyone. And so I was very proud of her when she was faced with that dilemma of, you need to wear a face shield or you need to go home. And I honestly was shocked and amazed as her mother that she made that decision of, no, I'm not going to do it. That was her that was her defining moment, her line in the sand that she drew of no, I'm not going to do it because they want me to, because I have an exemption. So anyways, it was great. So going back to school, she, a couple of random kids have asked her, why don't you wear, a mask? And she just simply says, I have an exemption. And there's really no more discussion past that. And the teachers, there's certain staff, like proctors or whatever you call them in your state or whatever and they go, where's your mask? And she's like, I have an exemption. So pretty much within the first week, everyone was very familiar with the fact she's not wearing one, and she's the only one not wearing anything in that whole entire school.
That was going to be my next question, because it's one thing to be the only one in your class, but the only one in your entire school. So she sticks out like a sore thumb.
Well, sort of. So I asked her, I was like, so I thought she was going to start a fire. I was really hoping she was going to start the snowball effect of each kid looking at her going, well, she's not wearing one, so I'm not going to wear one. But again, all these teachers and staff people around them are constantly telling them, you need to put your mask back on. It needs to go up over your nose. Like it's my daughter's friends that talk to her. And like I said, they come over our house all the time. She goes over their house all the time. They carpool together. The staff are still telling her friends, you need to put your mask back on, because they're so used to hanging out with my daughter without a mask that they just naturally, take it off or let it dangle or whatever. And so, anyways, yeah, like she does see, staff telling other kids, reminding other kids constantly, you need to put it back on, you need to put it back on. But honestly, if my daughter didn't have asthma and she didn't have, food allergies, and if she only had anxiety or depression or whatever, I would have fought like a crazy person to get them a mask exemption, because the stress that it caused my daughter even to wear one that one day, like, was alarming and to me. And so I just, I'm fearful of these other kids. Like, it might not have happened the first day, the first month of school, but I'm sure, like, long-term wise, like, even if they're used to it, like, I think it's causing, some sort of mental distress within them that's, could be very concerning to a parent.
Well, also, one of the big problems that I have with it, and you touched on it, is that it's like conditioning the kids and adults to just be obedient. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it, whether it's right or wrong or whether you want to do it or not. Just go along. Just go along. Just go along.
Yeah.
Just comply. And we talked a little bit before we started recording, where you said that one of the reasons you think she's okay with being different is because she's used to being different and dealing with all of her health issues. And one of the reasons that you were able to, like, really go after this and email the teachers and fill out the exemption, do all this, is because you're used to advocating for your kids with their health issues.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had lunch with a friend of mine a week ago, or a few days ago, Saturday, and we were talking about how she says she goes all over the place without a mask. And we have a state mandate here. So there is no county here where you can go to escape the mandate like you can in Utah. And so, but she told me she's been going around without masks all these places. And I was just sitting there in awe. And I was like, how are you able to do this? And she said, you know what? I was homeschooled. And so I'm used to being different. And so maybe that's part of it. And she also told similar stories about advocating for her 18-year-old daughter who was getting surgery, and they wouldn't let the mom in there. She's like, yeah, I'm going to be in there. And so it's interesting to me that people that are used to being outside of the norm, who are used to being not rule breakers necessarily, but pushing the limits and advocating for themselves, are the ones that are now saying, I'm not going to comply with you, and standing up for their rights. And so I think that says a lot about you and Bradley. And I think it's awesome that you took that stand and you did not just give up. And I love that you were in that parking lot for 10 minutes and, like, you did not back down to that principle, because it would have been super easy to just say, okay, she'll wear the face shield. And so it's really awesome to hear that you didn't back down and that your daughter didn't back down. And it's funny that you went home and then 15 minutes later got a phone call, because you're right, you went through all the darn hoops. It's not like you just showed up at school without a mask. Like, you went through all the hoops. They had a process in place and they still weren't willing to follow it. So you had Bradley write something down. Will you read that first? Because I want to hear about what she had to say about going through that.
So she's 12. And she kind of rolled her eyes at me when I asked her to just, like, write down what she, thought about it. Because honestly, I think, she's used to being the only unmasked kid in her class. Well, she did tell me there are other kids who don't wear masks at the school, but they are wearing face shields, because I think they got bullied from the principal to wear a face shield, because we were the only ones that got checked in the checkbox that, no, we won't be wearing any face shields. And the only reason why I had the doctor checked that checkbox is because our governor came out saying that face shields are not a replacement for masks anyway. So why on earth would I have my daughter be wearing a face shield when that's not if that's not a replacement for a mask anyway, then there's no reason to wear it. So anyways, yeah, she's just thankful that she can just be her. And I think it's kind of upped her self, confidence in herself as well, because, like, I don't know. I think she's realizing, she can do hard things. But anyways, this is what she wrote. She put, "Hi, my name is Bradley Shane, and I don't wear a mask to school. Not wearing a mask to school is actually not as bad as you think. Yeah, some kids will ask you why, but after a month of school, people understand. My mom talked to my teachers, and once they had an early info about it, they were fine with it. At first, it's scary because you're scared about criticizing and bullies, but then I was actually inspiring some kids to be more strong about the mask situation, even my own friends. It's been only a month of school, and school feels normal already, except for the mask part. I encourage that even though it's scary at first, it's worth it in the end." So yeah, like I think we all had those emotions. Like I had those emotions. My daughter had those emotions. I didn't want her bullied. She didn't want to be bullied. But I think going back to like your state. So just recently, our county was put on a mask mandate, and we still don't go out with masks on. So we go to Walmart, we go to Smith's, we go to Costco with no masks on. And so it really kind of don't I don't like to lie, and I don't like to stretch the truth. So when we go to places like Costco, I tell them each of my kids have mask exemptions, and my husband and I, we don't wear masks because that's how we communicate with our children. And they understand. We haven't been bullied or yelled at or, whatever. I think they appreciate the honest like feedback, instead of them going, "Hey, you need to wear a mask." And I go, "No, I don't." I'm just simply explaining the situation. And so I do it with a smile, calmly, and I tell them the situation, and then I walk on. And I don't think most people want confrontation or, but I think everyone just kind of needs to like just worry about themselves, like just worry about their own business and just be nice to people, because the people coming at me holding a box of masks, like that's what they're told to do. And I try to not take it personal, but I just explain to them the situation. And usually sometimes we're the only family. Sometimes I see a couple other people in the same, place that we are that aren't wearing them. And we just kind of give each other like a look or a smile or whatever. And, it's nice to have support. It is. But at the same time, it's like people have to see it somewhere. My husband overheard another family. I didn't hear this, but my husband said when we walked in together and I was telling the worker at the door why we're not wearing a mask, the family behind us, my husband overheard them saying, "Did you see that family just walk in? They walked in without a mask and they ripped theirs off and they continued to shop." And so I think it helps that, other people see, like this is not a law, it's a mandate, but like, really, I don't know. Anyways, that's just my own personal.
Well, I agree 100%. And I've been beating that drum on Facebook, because I like to see, if I walk into a store without a mask and I see just one other person, I feel better. Like I feel like, okay. And so sometimes I do it just because I want other people to feel better and okay if they see me not wearing one. And I agree that most people don't want confrontations, and I think we need to be ready to say with something to say. I had a lady at Target. She wasn't even working there. She was a real Karen. And because I had my mask down, I go in and I eat popcorn and I drink a drink, and then so I have my mask down for that, right? And so she's coming at me and I'm like, whoa, what is she doing? Like she's pushing her cart towards me. And I thought she needed to get around me. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh, she wanted to confront me. And she says, mask. And I was just like, it took me a minute. And then I finally turned around. I said, got one. And then she kept walking. And when she was out of sight, she said, put it on. And so, but in hindsight, what I think I would like to do instead next time is just say, so what is it about me? What is it about this that bothers you? And like, not in a sarcastic, mean way, but like, let's have a dialogue, because I want people to see that they don't need to be afraid. If you're wearing a mask, you're taken care of. Don't come within 6 feet of me. It's all good. And so I think we should do this sort of in a non-confrontational, polite way, and see if people want to have a dialogue, But it does, these mask mandates are not going to go away on their own. And it seems like these governors do not want to give up the power. I don't see our governor not renewing this mandate again, at least a few more times. And there's no emergency here. And he's doing it under the auspices of this is an emergency. And there's no emergency. We have 5 people hospitalized in Douglas County with COVID out of 330,000 people here. It's not an emergency. It's just a power grab.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to end until we stop complying. And so for me, I feel like it's my duty to not comply, because otherwise it's just going to keep going and going and going. And so I want to wrap up. Sorry, we're like going really long here. And so
no, you're good.
Do you have any last final comments before I wrap up the show?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, is that I don't personally wear a mask because it's my conscience. I don't something inside me does not agree with it. And I think that helped me as a child, stay away from drugs and alcohol. I just simply didn't believe in it. So I just didn't do it. And so that's how it just crosses over to other aspects of my life, is just, my conscience just says no. So I don't even own one. And I just, I try to respect other people's wishes. If you're a super mask person, that's awesome. I won't come within, like you said, 6 feet of you, I'm not trying to take masks off of other people who honestly want to wear them. But for me, I'm going to live my life the way I did, because like I said, my daughter, I felt like we were in prison when she had crazy food allergies. We were constantly washing our hands. We didn't go to restaurants because we were afraid of what was on the surface of tables, what was on chairs, what was she coming on contact with. We felt like we were quarantined back then. And we've done so many programs with her and medications, and we've gotten to the point where we're comfortable finally in our own skin, and I'm not going to live like that again. So that's where it's at. But here's a final thought for parents out there that, want better for their children. Just put yourself in their shoes. Be the kind of mom you would want if you were your own kid. Be there for them, fight for them where they need it, know them better than the schools, know them better than doctors, push for what you think your child needs. And I know that it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And I can tell you, even though I've been doing it for years, it's still hard. It's still uncomfortable. It's always going to feel uncomfortable, because you're not the medical professional. You're not the doctor. You're not the allergist. You're not, their mental health, expert or their therapist. So you're not looking at it from that aspect, but to continually just, advocating for your child, looking at the federal laws, knowing parental consent is crucial. I mean, you need a parental consent for your child to participate in a play, or to participate in band, or to go on a field trip. Why don't they need a signature for them to be medically treated with a mask? That blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just, get with like-minded people, try to support each other and have each other's backs. And, fighting for your kid, you'll never regret it. But if you sit back and do nothing, you have to live with that as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I agree that I think a lot of us know instinctively that the whole mask thing is wrong, and we all feel like we violate our conscience whenever we put them on. So I would say, people, we've got to stop wearing them. We've got to stop complying. Obviously, you need to do what you feel is right for you, but try it. Try going as an adult. Try going into some places without it. I've done it. I went to Chili's yesterday. No one batted an eye. My girls all wore them because they see the little signs and they say, okay. And they pointed to me and I said, I see the sign. And so they know that I'm choosing my own way and I'm allowing them to choose their own way. And you made a good point. We don't ever go up to other people with masks and tell them to take them off because we don't like them. We believe in freedom of choice. And so I'm going to end on that note. I believe in freedom of choice, and that we should all be able to mask or not mask, however we feel is right for us in our situation. But until we have that right, people, really think hard about just not complying. And if it comes to your kids, look and see if there is any avenue for unmasking, if there is an exemption or some other way. So thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. Too bad the video messed up, but I will tag you on Facebook so you'll see when it's posted, and then hopefully your friends will listen and all that good stuff. So thanks again. Thanks for being you, and thank Bradley for writing up her story, and tell her that I'm proud of her. My listeners are proud of her, and we think she's awesome and very brave for a 12-year-old. All right. Thank you for listening. All right. No problem. Thank you for listening to.
Good to see you.
Yes, you too. Thank you for listening to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness, a podcast that you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, etc., AnnetteTalks.com, YouTube/Annette Talks, and a few other places. Thank you for listening to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness, where freedom lovers gather.